Hey there YouTube, it's Michael Gallacher here, the Media Preacher, back with another video and another Blu-ray review. I haven't done one for a while, but it was my birthday in July. It's September now, and myself and my wife just got round to watching a disc that I'd been wanting and salivating over for ages and ages and ages. The disc in question is the new Arrow release of the classic 1970s movie Carrie by Brian De Palma. I think that Carrie was Brian De Palma's first directorial film. If I'm wrong about that, please tell me in the comments, because I love Brian De Palma and I'd like to see any films that I might have missed. But I think this is his first film. And for those of you who don't know what the film's about, the film revolves around a high school student called Carrie who has very special powers to move objects with the power of her mind. She has the power of telekinesis. Unfortunately, she's from an unconventional family and is very much under the thumb of her highly religious mother. She's being bullied by all of her friends at school. And essentially the film follows her as she's then invited to the prom by the so-called high school stud. She's invited to the prom, and I'm afraid she's upset one of the other girls at the high school. They play a horrible, horrible prank on her, which humiliates her in front of the school. And the whole movie is the climax to this prank. And she then essentially takes her anger out on everybody in her vicinity who is associated with the school, good, bad, or indifferent to her. She essentially kills everybody that she sees. Because she's so badly humiliated. And it's one of the great things I think about De Palma's work, is that he is the master of creating a situation, a suspenseful situation, and then keeping the audience on the edge of their seat because they know that this is going to pay off, that something huge is going to happen at the end of the sequence. You saw it in The Untouchables, in the scene in sort of the train station in Grand Central Station. You see it in Carlito's Way, again in Grand Central Station. And this movie takes that concept, I think, to a whole other level, because the whole movie is the build to this climax, not just a specific, say, 20-minute sequence. This film has the whole movie building towards this climactic end sequence. And in some respects, it's quite a slow burn. But it's a very enjoyable slow burn that's really well acted and has a great payoff at the end of it. As we were watching it, my wife didn't like it very much, and one of her criticisms was that the cast in the movie, these high school students, all looked like they were sort of 30 and 40 years old, and like they shouldn't be at high school anymore. And perhaps she had a point where that's concerned, because some of the so-called high school students look older than I am now, which is perhaps a little bit concerning. But actually, I think that the movie is very, very, very well cast on the whole. That's an issue that I think was present in a lot of 70s films. The other great example of a 70s film with a high school cast that seems too old to be playing the roles, of course, is Grease. I'm not a huge fan of Grease, but that film suffers from exactly the same problem. Moving on to the cast, Sissy Spacek plays the lead role. For those of you who haven't seen it, she plays Carrie, and I think it's an iconic performance in the canon of her career. It's probably the pinnacle of the career that she has, and I think it's the role that she'll always be most remembered for. And even though she perhaps looks slightly too old to be playing the part, I think that she plays the part very, very, very convincingly, and she brings a real humanity and warmth to the role, because ultimately Carrie is the evil protagonist in this film. I mean, she's the one who at the end of the film ends up killing everybody that's associated with her, whether they've wronged her or not. But she brings such warmth to the role that actually you're rooting for her the whole way through. And when that climactic scene ends, for me anyway, it had an emotional impact on how I felt about the character moving forward. And I think that was due mainly to Sissy Spacek's performance and the humanity that she brought to the role. The film is based on a book by Stephen King, a novel by Stephen King, and I've read the novel, very much recommend it, and I think from memory that the film is very much is very close to the novel in terms of the way it's constructed, unlike perhaps a film like The Shining, which Kubrick takes some artistic license with, although I think he did it in a fantastically superb way. And The Shining is probably the better picture between Carrie and The Shining by quite a long way. But Carrie's an excellent film. Talking about the cast still, you've got Piper Laurie as well, who plays Carrie's mother, this sort of very imposing figure, a very odd figure. You know there's something very odd about this woman as soon as she comes on the screen. And again, I would think that she's probably, next to Sissy Spacek, the best thing in the film. And I think that she's perfectly cast. And she brings a real eeriness and spookiness to her role that really creeps you out as you're watching the film, what it certainly did with me anyway. Let me know what you think about her performance and the effect it had on you in the comments section. In terms of other supporting cast, you've got John Travolta in a very early role. It may even be his first role. He's great in the movie. And you've got Nancy Allen, who of course was in RoboCop in later years, and I think she was also in another De Palma film called Dressed to Kill, which is also an Arrow release. I don't think Dressed to Kill is anywhere near as good as this. And I don't think that Nancy Allen necessarily is the best thing about this film. She really does look too old to play the part, and she doesn't. I didn't feel she was very credible in this particular role, and she sort of detracts from the film, in my opinion. Tell me if you disagree again in the comments section, but in my opinion, she really detracts from the film to some degree, and I think she was badly cast. I think at the time of shooting the movie, she was actually Brian De Palma's wife. So I don't know if perhaps he was as impartial as he would have been with other actresses in terms of casting her role in the picture. But it's a small gripe, because ultimately the film is excellent, and I would very much recommend it to anybody that hasn't seen it. I imagine most of the people watching this video are watching it because they already know about the film, they already know about the performances, and they want to know if the Arrow release is worth picking up. I think the first thing to say to my American friends on YouTube is that if you own the Scream Factory release of this film, it's probably not worth picking this up. And I say that because the transfer that's used on the Scream Factory release is the same transfer that is used on this release. And so you're essentially double dipping if you buy this release. The only reason to buy it presumably would be for the artwork. I don't know what the Scream Factory artwork is, if it's different. I haven't actually seen it. I'll have to look it up prior to uploading the video. No, the actual transfer itself is standard across both releases. And so if you have that release, I would save your money and probably buy something else. If you don't have that release and you only have the old DVD of Carrie, the old UK DVD of Carrie, or even, I think there was a Blu-ray release that I haven't seen, I imagine that this is a huge step up. I can tell you it definitely is a massive step up from the DVD release that was released probably in about 1998, 1999. The transfer was made by Scream Factory. It's a scan, brand new scan from the original negative. It's a 4K scan. It's not a 4K disc, but it is a 4K scan. HD disc. It looks as good as the film I think could ever look on any format. As I say, it's not a 4K disc. I don't know how much better this film could look on 4K. And the reason I say that is because I think that the film stock that was used for this film was probably cheaper film stock than film stock that was used perhaps for more expensive films of the day, for instance films like Star Wars. When you look at the detail in the film, it's not as detailed, it's not as bright and colourful as those films. That said, the transfer on this disc actually, given the limitations of the original negative, is fantastic. The colours are rendered beautifully. There's a lovely sheen of film grain. I watched this on a huge projection screen when we watched it at home, and it looked very film-like to me as I was watching it. Not all of the colours are fantastic. Some of them look a bit soft, and a lot of the film is sort of shot with these soft lenses. It doesn't look great on those scenes, but that's how the film was intended to look. That's how Brian De Palma shot it. And presumably there was an artistic reason in his mind for doing that. So this film is not going to look any better, I don't think, on any future format that it's released on. I think you're safe in future-proofing yourself by buying this release moving forward. The Arrow release has the specially commissioned artwork. on it, which is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's brilliant. It's so much better than the original artwork, but Arrow Films, true to the care they take in their releases, does include actually the original artwork. I don't know how well you can see that. The original artwork there from the theatrical release as a slipcover, so you can turn it round if you want to. Included in this edition are a number of new commentaries. I haven't listened to them yet. I don't really listen to commentaries as a general rule. And you get this booklet that has lots of stills from the picture and a small essay on Brian De Palma, which is quite an interesting read. In terms of the special edition contents, I was hoping that there'd be perhaps a brand new sort of retrospective documentary shot in HD with all of the actresses and actors at this age talking about their experience of Brian De Palma and the film, and perhaps some, Brian De Palma interviews as well. And that's not included on this disc, which is a shame. But it does include quite a few retrospective documentaries that are really, really interesting. There's quite a few retrospective documentaries. I think the documentary from the DVD's on there. And then I think there are some other new interviews with, I think there's the cinematographer of the film talks about the film on one of the special features. For me, the special features on this release are nowhere near as good as they were on the Thing release, which was so jam-packed with stuff. You could just, you could spend the rest of the year watching the special features on that film. If you're buying this release, I think you're really buying it for the new transfer, or you're buying it to own the Blu-ray of the film. And if you want to own the Blu-ray of the film, this absolutely is the version to get. I don't know if you stream the film on Netflix, what transfer you get from that, but I would suggest go out and buy this disc, support Arrow Films, support future releases, because you know that you're getting the new transfer with this. You get the beautiful artwork, and you also, of course, get all the special features. This isn't a film that really needs many special features. Nor does the Thing, really. It stands up. It stands the test of time, and I think it speaks for itself. But I would definitely recommend this release, and that's why I'm making the video of it, basically. If I think something's really terrible, I might make a video of it. I haven't come across any releases that are so bad, but if I get something that I really think is worth purchasing, then I do try and make a video of it to sort of pass that knowledge on. This was released, I think, just before Christmas of last year, and when Arrow Films originally released it, they released a cardboard box in addition to the normal slipcase that I have here. And the cardboard box had completely different packaging, the same artwork, but it was like in a cardboard sleeve. And originally I really wanted that release, but when I came to ask my wife for this, it was available, but it was very, very, very expensive, that particular release. And so we looked at what you got extra on the cardboard release, because I know that some of the Arrow films have done those first releases and you've gotten a lot more. For instance, Videodrome, which I might do a video on at some point, has David Cronenberg's early films with the cardboard slip release that I think you can now buy separately, but at the time you couldn't get. This didn't seem to have anything really extra, save for some extra photo cards, and of course the packaging would have looked nice next to my Thing box set, because I've kept my cardboard box set separate from my old style case box sets. I've done a video on how I'm now keeping them. If you want to check that out on the link up here, then please do, because some of you might be horrified by the way I'm now storing my discs. But this is about to be assimilated into the collection. It will lose its plastic case, and I got some special cases that I put it in to keep all of my Blu-rays together in a convenient and helpful way. And this actually probably will fit better now with my collection being this release than perhaps the cardboard collection would have been. Although I do have a separate storage space for my cardboard or special box set type releases. But no, I would absolutely recommend you buying this. It's well worth picking up if you haven't seen the movie. If you really enjoy the movie and you want to upgrade the Blu-ray, then for the transfer alone, it's absolutely worth doing. As I say, most of you watching this video probably already will have seen the film. So yeah, very much recommending it to you. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, please subscribe, like, leave me a comment. I love it when you leave me comments, and I always try and respond to everybody's comments on the channel. Until next time, this is the Media Preacher. Keep on preaching. See you later.